The survey ship, Celestial Harmony, drifted silently through the void, its sensors sweeping across another unremarkable star system. Commander Zithka adjusted her environmental suit and watched the readings stream across her display. This was routine work for the Galactic Confederation, mapping new sectors, cataloging planets, and searching for signs of intelligent life. The third planet from the star caught her attention first. Her sensor officer, a tall Vrelian named Course T, made a clicking sound that indicated confusion. "Commander, you need to see this," he said, his forearms working rapidly across his control panel. Zithka moved to his station. The planet's readings were impossible. Surface temperatures that swung from freezing to burning, storms that could tear apart most spacecraft, an atmosphere so reactive it would corrode their ship's hull in hours, radiation levels from the nearby star that should have sterilized the surface long ago. "Classification?" she asked. "Deathworld Category 9, Course T replied without hesitation. "Nothing could survive there, Commander. The gravity alone is 3 times what most species can handle. And look at these weather patterns, where massive cyclonic storms that last for days. Earthquakes that could crack continents." Zithka nodded. The galaxy was full of death worlds, planets so hostile that evolution never got the chance to create complex life. They were useful only for mining operations, and even then, only with the most advanced protective equipment. She was about to order the ship to move on when her communications officer, a small Fethran with shimmering blue scales, spoke up. "Commander, I'm detecting artificial energy signatures from the Death World." The bridge fell silent. Zithka felt her stomach drop. "Repeat that, Officer Nimra." "Multiple artificial energy sources across the planet's surface. Large ones, and... Commander, I'm picking up electromagnetic transmissions, structured patterns. This looks like communication signals." Course T checked his instruments again. "That's impossible. The radiation alone should prevent any electronics from functioning. And the atmospheric pressure at sea level could crush most known life forms." But the evidence was undeniable. Something intelligent lived on that nightmare world. Something that had not only survived but had built a civilization, advanced enough to generate massive energy signatures and complex communications. Zithka felt a chill run through her body. In all her years of exploration, she had never encountered anything like this. The Confederation had strict protocols for first contact with new species, but those protocols assumed the species would be found on habitable worlds, not planets that could kill visitors within minutes of landing. "Send a priority message to Confederation Command," she ordered. "We've found intelligent life on a Class 9 death world. Request immediate instructions." The response came back 3 days later, during which time the crew had continued monitoring the impossible planet. The signals grew stronger. The energy signatures suggested a global civilization with technology that might even rival some Confederation member species. Admiral Quexnor's image appeared on the main screen, her tentacles writhing with what Zithka recognized as extreme agitation. "Commander, your report has caused quite a stir here. Half the Council thinks your sensors are malfunctioning. The other half is terrified. Our readings are accurate, Admiral. There's definitely intelligent life down there. Then we have a first contact situation unlike anything in Confederation history. These beings, whatever they are, also must be suffering terribly on that world. They probably evolved in some protected pocket of the planet and are trapped there, barely surviving. We need to make contact and offer immediate evacuation and relocation assistance." Zithka looked at her readings again. The energy output suggested cities in Rao, possibly dozens of them across every continent. These didn't look like the desperate signals of a dying species huddled in caves, but she kept her doubts to herself. "What are your orders, Admiral?" "The diplomatic vessel Harmony's Voice is already en route to your position. Ambassador Kelth Miss will handle first contact. Your job is to provide sensor support and be ready for immediate rescue operations. These poor beings have probably never seen the stars without deadly radiation. They don't know rescue is possible." The Harmony's Voice arrived a week later, its gleaming hull reflecting the harsh light of the alien star. Ambassador Kelth Miss was a respected diplomat who had successfully negotiated first contact with 17 different species. His approach was always the same: a mouse, calm, patient, and filled with offers of aid and friendship. As the diplomatic ship moved into orbit, Zithka watched the planet's response. More energy signatures appeared. The electromagnetic chatter increased dramatically. Whatever lived down there was definitely aware of their presence. Commander, Nimrod called out, I'm receiving a transmission from the planet. It's in multiple languages. They're trying to communicate. The message was simple but shocking in its implications. The beings on the planet Ron, they called themselves humans, were welcoming the visitors and requesting a meeting. They provided coordinates for what they called a safe meeting place in orbit around their moon. Ambassador Kelthmis accepted immediately, though privately he wondered how beings trapped on such a hellish world could possibly reach orbit. They probably had one small, desperate shuttlecraft at most. The meeting was scheduled for the following day. As the Harmony's voice approached the coordinates, Zithka monitored from a safe distance. What happened next would be discussed in Confederation academies for decades to come. The humans arrived first. Their ship was massive, easily 3 times the size of the Harmony's voice. Its hull was thick and scarred, built like a fortress rather than a spacecraft. Weapon-like protrusions covered its surface, though later analysis would show these were actually sensor arrays and environmental protection systems designed to operate in the hellish conditions of their home. Planet Ambassador Kelthmis nearly called off the meeting. To his eyes, the humans had arrived in a warship. His security chief advised immediate withdrawal. But something about the humans' communication suggested genuine, peaceful intent, so he decided to proceed. The airlock connecting the 2 ships hissed open. Ambassador Kelthmis waited in the diplomatic chamber, surrounded by his finest translators and cultural specialists. He expected to meet beings who were desperate, grateful, and eager for rescue from their terrible world. What walked through that airlock would change everything the galaxy thought it knew about survival, evolution, and what was possible for intelligent life. The humans were tall, bipedal, and moved with a confidence that seemed impossible for beings from such a hostile world. They didn't wear environmental suits, just simple clothing that provided no obvious protection from radiation or atmospheric pressure changes. They looked healthy, strong. Their leader, who introduced herself as Captain Sarah Chen, actually smiled when she saw the elaborate protection gear worn by the Confederation representatives. Sorry we're a bit late, she said through the universal translator. Had to take a route around one of our solar storms. Hope you didn't mind waiting. Ambassador Kelthmis stared at her. She spoke as if navigating around solar storms was routine, as if her people regularly traveled through radiation that would kill most galactic species in seconds. We are here to offer assistance, he managed to say. Your world appears to be quite dangerous. Captain Chen looked puzzled. Dangerous, Earth? I mean, sure, we get the occasional hurricane or earthquake, but that's just normal weather. Were you having trouble with your environmental systems? Our planet's pretty standard for human habitation. The ambassador felt his worldview beginning to crumble. These beings didn't see their planet as a death world. They saw it as home, a normal, comfortable home. And if they could thrive on a world that would kill him in minutes, what else might they be capable of? The galaxy was about to find out. The cultural exchange began 3 hours after first contact, and within minutes, Ambassador Kelthmis realized he was in completely uncharted territory. Captain Chen had invited the diplomatic team aboard the human vessel, which she casually referred to as one of our smaller exploration ships. The interior of the human ship was as disturbing as its exterior. The corridors were built to withstand tremendous force. The walls were thick enough to stop projectiles that could penetrate Confederation armor. Emergency systems were everywhere, designed for situations that would be immediately fatal to most galactic species. This is our main laboratory, Captain Chen explained, leading them through a chamber that looked more like a military bunker. We use it for studying samples from extreme environments. You know, deep ocean thermal vents, volcanic regions, that sort of thing. Dr. Yethnar, the Confederation's chief xenobiologist, examined the equipment with growing alarm. The containment units were designed to hold substances that could eat through most known materials. The pressure chambers could simulate environments that would crush his bones instantly. The radiation shielding suggested they routinely worked with materials that could kill him from across the room. What are you studying here? He asked, his voice barely steady. Oh, the usual stuff, Captain Chen replied cheerfully. Extremophil bacteria, mineral samples from our ocean floors, ice cores from our polar regions. Actually, we found some really interesting microorganisms in our Antarctica last month. They live in conditions that would be considered pretty harsh even by our standards. Ambassador Kelthmis felt faint. Their standards for harsh included environments that would instantly kill most Confederation citizens. What could possibly be harsh by human standards? The situation got worse during the formal cultural presentation. The humans had prepared what they called a brief overview of Earth culture and history. They presented it as if it were completely normal. Our planet has experienced 5 major extinction events, Captain Chen explained, displaying images on a holographic projector. Each one wiped out most life on the planet. The most recent one eliminated about 70% of all species. We humans evolved after that one, so we're pretty used to dealing with change and challenges. The Confederation delegation sat in stunned silence. Most galactic civilizations took millions of years to develop on stable, protected worlds. These humans had evolved on a planet that regularly killed most of its own life forms. Your species survived these
extinction events?
Dr. Yethnar asked. Well, we didn't exist during the early ones, Captain Chen said, but our ancestors did pretty well. They adapted, evolved, got tougher. It's just natural selection, really. The ones who couldn't handle harsh conditions didn't make it. The ones who could? Well, here we are. She clicked to the next image, showing what humans called natural disasters. The Confederation team watched in horror as she casually described earthquakes that could level cities, storms that could destroy continents, and volcanic eruptions that could change global climate. We get about 16,000 earthquakes a year, she mentioned offhandedly. Most are pretty small, but the big ones keep us on our toes. And hurricane season is always interesting. Last year we had one that covered an area larger than some of your member worlds. Ambassador Kelthmis tried to process this information. Their homeworld experienced a minor geological event every few decades, and when it happened, it was considered a major catastrophe requiring galactic aid. These humans lived with 16,000 earthquakes every year and called it normal weather. The presentation continued with what humans called recreational activities. The images showed humans voluntarily exposing themselves to conditions that would require emergency medical intervention for most galactic citizens. This is surfing, Captain Chen explained, showing humans riding waves that were tall enough to crush buildings. And this is mountain climbing, rock climbing, deep-sea diving, skydiving. Extreme sports are pretty popular on Earth. Extreme sports? Ambassador Kelthmis managed to ask. Activities that involve some level of physical risk or danger. They're fun because they push us to our limits. This one here is called volcano boarding. You slide down the side of an active volcano. And this is ice diving, swimming under frozen water in sub-zero temperatures. Dr. Yethnar made a choking sound. You do these things. For entertainment? Sure. Life would be pretty boring without a little challenge. Oh, and here's one of our most popular sports, rugby. It's a contact sport where you try to carry a ball to the other team's goal while they try to physically stop you. The hologram showed humans deliberately running into each other at high speed, tackling, grabbing, and colliding with tremendous force. The Confederation delegation watched in fascination and terror as humans bounced off each other, got up, and immediately continued playing. Do you wear protective equipment for this? Ambassador Kelthmis asked. Not really. Some padding here and there, but mostly you just rely on conditioning and technique. The goal is to be tough enough to handle whatever happens. The cultural presentation moved on to human food, and the nightmare deepened. Captain Chen proudly displayed images of humans consuming substances that would be classified as toxins by Confederation standards. This is coffee, she said, showing a dark liquid that scanned as mildly poisonous. Most of us drink several cups a day. It contains caffeine, which is a stimulant. And this is chocolate. It contains theobromine, which is technically toxic, but we've built up a tolerance to it. You intentionally consume toxic substances? Dr. Yethnar whispered. Well, the dose makes the poison, right? These are just mild stimulants for us. Now, if you really want to see something interesting, here are some of our spicy foods. The images showed humans eating plants that would cause severe chemical burns in most galactic species. They called it cuisine and seemed to enjoy the experience of controlled pain. Capsaicin, the chemical that makes peppers hot, triggers pain receptors, Captain Chen explained. Some humans enjoy pushing their limits with increasingly spicy foods. We have competitions to see who can handle the most. Ambassador Kelthmis realized his fundamental understanding of intelligent life was completely wrong. Every civilization the Confederation had encountered sought comfort, safety, and stability. They built their societies around avoiding pain and minimizing risk. Humans, apparently, sought out pain and risk for fun. The meeting concluded with humans offering to share some of their cultural artifacts, samples of their food, recordings of their music, and examples of their literature. Ambassador Kelthmis accepted politely, though privately he wondered if exposing Confederation citizens to human culture might be considered an act of biological warfare. As the diplomatic teams prepared to part ways, Captain Chen made one final comment that would haunt Confederation leaders for months to come. "We really appreciate you stopping by," she said. "Earth can get a little isolated out here. It's nice to know there are other folks traveling around the galaxy. If you ever need any help with anything, our exploration, research, problem-solving, just let us know. We humans love a good challenge." Ambassador Kelthmis nodded politely, but his mind was racing. These beings had just offered to help the Confederation with challenges. They came from a world where challenge meant earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanic eruptions, and mass extinctions. What would humans consider a serious problem? More importantly, what would happen when the galaxy's real problems encountered a species that treated disaster as entertainment and poison as cuisine? The Confederation was about to find out, and Ambassador Kelthmis had the sinking feeling that the galaxy would never be the same again. As the Harmony's voice departed from Earth space, its computers automatically filed a first contact report that would soon reach every corner of the Confederation. The report's conclusion was simple but terrifying in its implications. Humans are friendly, helpful, and peaceful. They consider their death world to be a comfortable home. They pursue danger as recreation, recommend extreme caution in future dealings. These beings may not understand the concept of impossible. 6 months after first contact, the Galactic Confederation was experiencing what historians would later call the human problem. It wasn't that humans were hostile or difficult, quite the opposite. They were helpful, friendly, and eager to participate in galactic civilization. The problem was that they were too good at things that should have been impossible. Administrator Vex Nor stared at the reports flooding her desk in the Confederation's Integration Bureau. Her job was normally straightforward: help new member species adjust to galactic civilization, provide them with necessary technologies, and ease their transition into interstellar society. Most species needed decades of careful support before they could function independently in space. Humans had been granted provisional membership status and assigned a quiet border sector near the edge of explored space. The Confederation assumed they would need extensive assistance, our protective habitats, specially designed ships, medical support to help them survive outside their death world environment. Instead, the reports coming in defied all logic. "They're doing what?" Administrator Vex Nor asked her assistant, a nervous Kralian named Bithtul, who was sorting through the daily incident reports. "Trading in the Korath Nebula." "Ma'am," Bithtul replied, his scales shifting to a pale yellow of distress. "Apparently, a human merchant vessel, the Lucky Break, established a trading post in the nebula's radiation field. They're offering rare minerals extracted from asteroids inside the hazard zone." Administrator Vex Nor felt her 4 hearts skip several beats. The Korath Nebula was classified as a Class 5 hazard zone. The radiation levels inside were lethal to all known galactic species within hours. Automated mining was impossible because the electromagnetic interference destroyed electronic systems. No one had ever successfully established operations there. How are they surviving the radiation? According to their reports, they're using standard human radiation shielding. They say the radiation levels are similar to their deep space exploration gear. The administrator pulled up the humans' original planetary survey data. Earth's surface received radiation levels that would require emergency medical treatment for most galactic species. To humans, it was a pleasant summer day. What about the electromagnetic interference? How are they maintaining communications and navigation? They say their equipment is hardened against normal space weather. Apparently, their home star produces solar storms regularly, so all human technology is built to function through electromagnetic interference that would disable most galactic systems. Administrator Vex Nor realized the humans hadn't just survived in the Korath Nebula. They had set up a permanent trading post in conditions that were lethal to everyone else in the galaxy. They were operating a monopoly on rare minerals that no other species could safely extract. The reports got worse. Human engineering teams had volunteered to repair a damaged space station in the Xerion system. The station was in decaying orbit around a neutron star, suffering from gravitational stress that was slowly tearing it apart. Confederation engineers had declared it a total loss. The gravitational forces made it impossible to get close enough for repairs. The humans had fixed it in 3 days. How? Administrator Vexnor demanded. They say their ships are built to handle gravitational stress from planetary operations. Apparently, Earth's gravity is strong enough that their spacecraft are routinely designed to escape gravitational fields that would trap most galactic vessels. The administrator pulled up the technical specifications for human ships. The engines were massively overpowered. By galactic standards, REWARs designed to escape from a planet with 3 times normal gravity while fighting through atmospheric storms that could destroy most spacecraft. Human engineering ship could operate near a neutron star the same way other species operated near a peaceful moon. But the reports that truly worried her came from the medical division. Dr. Kenvar, the Confederation's chief xenobiologist, had submitted a request that was both urgent and baffling. We need to revise all galactic medical protocols. His report stated, human physiology is unlike anything we've encountered. They heal from injuries that would be permanently disabling to most species. They function normally in environments that would send other beings into medical shock. Most disturbing, they seem to adapt to hostile conditions rather than being damaged by them. The specific examples were alarming. A human trader had been exposed to a toxic atmosphere leak that should have been fatal. Instead of dying, she had simply held her breath for what other species would consider an impossible length of time, sealed the leak, and reported it as a minor inconvenience. A human explorer had been caught in a gravitational anomaly that subjected him to forces that should have crushed his bones. He had described the experience as like a really intense amusement park ride, and asked if there were any more similar phenomena he could study. Most unnerving of all, human crews were volunteering for assignments that other species considered suicide missions: deep space exploration in uncharted systems, research missions to unstable stars, recovery operations in hazardous zones that had been written off as too dangerous for decades. The humans didn't see these as dangerous assignments. They saw them as interesting work opportunities. Administrator Vex Nor called an emergency meeting of the Integration Council. Representatives from 12 species gathered to discuss what they were privately calling the human situation. "They're making us look incompetent," complained Representative Korth Len, an elderly Zephyrian whose people were renowned for their engineering skills. "My constituents want to know why humans can repair neutron star installations when our best engineers can't even get close enough to take measurements." "It's worse than that," added Representative Yil Par, whose species specialized in hazardous environment operations. "They're working in conditions we classify as instantly lethal. How do we explain to our people that these primitive Deathworlders are outperforming our most advanced teams?" Dr. Kenvar, attending virtually from his research station, provided the most disturbing perspective. "I've been studying their biology and their history. These beings didn't just survive on their death world, they thrived there. Everything that makes space dangerous are radiation, vacuum, gravitational stress, toxic atmosphere, extreme temperatures. These are just normal environmental conditions on Earth. Surely that's an exaggeration," Representative Korthlen said. "Earth's atmosphere contains oxygen at concentrations that would be combustible in most galactic environments. The surface pressure is 3 times galactic standard. The radiation from their star would cause cellular damage in most species within hours. Their weather includes storms that generate more energy than some starship reactors." The council fell silent as they absorbed this information. "And they call this normal?" Administrator Vexnor asked. "Normal, pleasant, and comfortable. They've been sending us tourism brochures inviting galactic citizens to visit beautiful Earth. The recommended safety equipment for a simple walk on their planet's surface includes full environmental suits with independent life support, radiation shielding, and emergency medical systems." Representative Yilpar made a sound that indicated deep concern. "What happens when they encounter real dangers? Situations that are genuinely threatening even by their standards?" The question hung in the air like a toxic cloud. If humans considered radiation storms and gravitational anomalies to be minor inconveniences, what would they do when faced with actual galactic-level threats? There's something else, Dr. Kenvar continued. I've been analyzing their response patterns to dangerous situations. Most species react to danger with caution, fear, and avoidance. Humans react to danger with curiosity, excitement, and problem-solving behavior. They enjoy danger? Representative Korth-Len asked. They seek it out. They have an entire category of recreational activities specifically designed to create dangerous situations for entertainment. When faced with a problem that seems impossible to solve, instead of accepting failure, they become more motivated to find a solution. Administrator Vex Nor felt a chill run through her exoskeleton. Are you suggesting that humans become more capable when situations become more dangerous? That's exactly what I'm suggesting. Their evolutionary history shows constant adaptation to increasingly hostile conditions. They don't just survive catastrophes, they become stronger because of them. The council sat in uncomfortable silence as the implications sank in. The galaxy had always operated on the assumption that intelligence and danger were inversely related. Smart species built safe, stable civilizations protected from the hostile universe. Humans had built their civilization by conquering the hostile universe and making it their home. What are you recommending? Administrator Vex Nor asked. Dr. Kenvar's image flickered as his transmission was interrupted by what sounded like an explosion in the background. He glanced over his shoulder, then looked back at the camera with what might have been amusement. Sorry about that. The human research team just triggered another contained fusion reaction in the lab next door. They're testing some new engine design. They say it's perfectly safe. He paused as another, louder explosion echoed through his research station. My recommendation? We need to completely revise our understanding of what's possible in this galaxy. The humans aren't just the alert came at 0347 Galactic Standard Time, screaming across every emergency channel in the Confederation network. Admiral Quexnor was pulled from her sleep by the harsh wail of the crisis beacon. A sound that hadn't been heard in over 2 centuries. Report, she demanded as she rushed onto the command bridge of the Confederation flagship Eternal Peace. Commander Zithka, now serving as the Admiral's chief intelligence officer, stood at the main display with her face pale with terror. Admiral, we have confirmed contact with a void swarm. The bridge fell completely silent. Every officer knew the legends of void swarms, our ancient mechanical plagues that consumed entire star systems, leaving nothing but empty space in their wake. Most believed they were myths, stories told to explain the mysterious dead zones scattered throughout the galaxy. Confirmed how? Admiral Quexnor asked, though she dreaded the answer. The Kethrin system went dark 6 hours ago. All communication stopped. Long-range sensors show... Commander Zithka paused, her voice breaking. The system is gone, Admiral. 8 planets, 3 moons, 2 inhabited space stations, and over 40 million citizens. There's nothing left but debris and expanding clouds of metallic particles. The main display activated, showing the horror that had once been the Kethrin system, where vibrant worlds had orbited a stable star. There was now only a field of glittering metal fragments spreading outward like a cancer. The particles are self-replicating, the science officer reported. They're consuming all matter they encounter and converting it into more of themselves. Current expansion rate suggests they'll reach the next inhabited system in 18 standard days. Admiral Quexnor felt her worst nightmares coming true. How many systems are in the projected path? 47 inhabited worlds, Admiral. Combined population of over 12 billion beings. The Confederation had protocols for many types of crises, but nothing like this. Previous encounters with void swarms heirs, if the ancient records were accurate, or had ended with the complete evacuation of entire galactic sectors. Whole civilizations had been abandoned to the expanding mechanical death. Begin immediate evacuation of all systems in the projected path, Admiral Quexnor ordered. Contact the Council of Species. We need every ship capable of carrying refugees, and send word to our allies. We're going to need all the help we can get. Over the next 72 hours, the largest evacuation in galactic history began. Thousands of ships raced toward the threatened systems, desperately trying to save as many lives as possible. But even at maximum effort, they could only evacuate a fraction of the population before the swarm arrived. The military response was equally desperate. Every Confederation fleet converged on the expanding cloud of death, bringing weapons that represented the pinnacle of galactic technology. Antimatter torpedoes, plasma cannons, gravitational disruptors, and every tool of destruction the galaxy possessed. Nothing worked. The void swarm consumed everything. Energy weapons were absorbed and converted into more metallic particles. Physical projectiles were dissolved on contact. Even nuclear weapons only provided more matter for the swarm to convert. Admiral Quexnor watched fleet after fleet disappear into the expanding cloud. Each brave charge bought a few more hours for the evacuation efforts, but the strategic situation was hopeless. The swarm grew stronger with every ship it consumed. "Admiral," Commander Zithka said quietly, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth." On the main screen, Captain Sarah Chen appeared, though she looked different than she had during first contact. Gone was the casual confidence. In its place was something Admiral Quexnor had never seen from humans before, a deadly serious concentration. "Admiral Quexnor, we've been monitoring the situation with this void swarm," Captain Chen said without preamble. "We'd like to offer assistance." "Captain, we appreciate the gesture, but we're dealing with something beyond current galactic capabilities. You should focus on evacuating your own people. Earth is directly in the expansion path." Captain Chen's expression didn't change. "With respect, Admiral, we're not evacuating. We're mobilizing." "Captain, you don't understand. This is a galaxy-ending threat. Your people need to get to safety." "Admiral, you don't understand. We're humans. We don't run from problems, see, we solve them." Admiral Quexnor felt a mixture of admiration and despair. Human courage was legendary by now, but courage wouldn't stop a force that had consumed entire fleets. "Captain, the swarm has destroyed everything we've thrown at it. Weapons that can crack planets barely slow it down. How do you propose to stop something like that?" Captain Chen smiled, and for the first time since the crisis began, Admiral Quexnor felt a flicker of hope. It wasn't a friendly smile or a confident smile. It was the smile of a predator that had found interesting prey. "We've been analyzing the data from your attacks, Admiral. You've been fighting this thing like it's an enemy fleet. It's not. It's an engineering problem." "Engineering problem? A really big, really interesting engineering problem. The kind humans love to solve." Within 6 hours, human ships began arriving in the combat zone. Not the exploration vessels the galaxy had grown accustomed to, but purpose-built warships that looked like they'd been designed to fight in the heart of a star. Their hulls were black with heat-dispersing materials. Their engines produced energy signatures that would power most galactic cities. "Admiral," the sensor operator called out in amazement, "the human ships are heading directly into the swarm." Admiral Quexnor watched in horror as the human fleet disappeared into the expanding cloud of metallic death. She waited for the inevitable also, the brief flare of ship reactors being consumed, the addition of more mass to the swarm. Instead, her sensors began picking up something impossible. "Admiral, the swarm's expansion has stopped in Grid Sector 7, the science officer reported, his voice filled with disbelief. "Stopped? Not just stopped, it's contracting. Something is happening inside the cloud." The main display zoomed in on the affected area. Inside the dark cloud of the swarm, brilliant flashes of light appeared in regular patterns. Not the chaotic destruction of consumed ships, but organized, systematic activity. "What are they doing in there?" Commander Zithka whispered. Captain Chen's voice crackled over the communication system, transmitted from somewhere deep inside the swarm. "Admiral, we've figured out the swarm's replication pattern. It's actually pretty elegant engineering on nanoscale machines that can convert any matter into more of themselves. Very efficient. Captain, get out of there. Those machines will consume your ships." "That's what we thought too initially. But we analyzed the conversion process. The swarm is designed to consume normal galactic materials through our standard metal alloys, conventional electronics, typical energy sources. Problem is, nothing about human technology is normal." Another human voice joined the transmission, an engineer speaking rapid technical language. "The swarm's nanomachines can't process our hull materials. We use carbon-based composites designed to survive Earth's atmosphere. To the swarm, our ships look like rocks." Captain Chen's voice returned, sounding almost cheerful. "Better yet, our electronics are hardened against radiation and electromagnetic interference levels that the swarm's systems can't handle. Our computers keep working even when the nanomachines try to disrupt them." Admiral Quexnor stared at the display as more sections of the swarm began contracting. "What's your strategy, Captain?" "Same thing we do with any dangerous problem, Admiral. We go inside, figure out how it works, and then we fix it." "Fix it?" "The swarm is just a machine, Admiral. A really big, really dangerous machine, but still just a machine. And humans are very good with machines." Over the next 12 hours, Admiral Quexnor watched something that would be remembered as the greatest feat of engineering in galactic history. Deep inside the swarm, human teams worked with technologies that shouldn't have functioned in that environment. They mapped the swarm's control networks, identified its command protocols, and did something that no galactic strategist had ever considered. They reprogrammed it. The swarm's basic programming is actually pretty simple, Captain Chen reported. Consume matter, replicate, expand, repeat. But there's no reason it has to be hostile. We're just changing the target parameters. Target parameters? Instead of consuming everything, we're teaching it to consume only specific materials. Dead asteroids, space debris, the kinds of waste matter that clutter up star systems anyway. Think of it as the galaxy's most efficient recycling program. When the operation was complete, the void swarm still existed, but it was no longer a weapon of destruction. The nanomachines continued their work, but now they cleaned space rather than consuming it. Dead asteroids were converted into useful materials. Dangerous debris was eliminated. The swarm had become a tool rather than a threat. How did you know that would work? Admiral Quexnor asked as human ships emerged from the now dormant cloud. Captain Chen's image appeared on the main screen again, her casual confidence restored. Admiral, when you grow up on a planet that's constantly trying to kill you, you learn that there's no such thing as an unsurvivable problem. There are just problems that haven't been solved yet. And if the reprogramming had failed, then another member spec A. 5 years after the Void Swarm crisis, the galaxy had settled into what historians would call the human era. The changes were so profound that younger species barely remembered what galactic civilization had been like before the Deathworlders arrived. Admiral Quexnor, now serving as Director of Galactic Emergency Response, stood in the observation deck of Starbase Unity, watching the latest class of graduates from the Extreme Conditions Academy. Below, beings from 47 different species struggled through what humans casually called basic survival training. The Academy had been humanity's idea, proposed 6 months after the Void Swarm incident. If we're going to be working together on difficult problems, Captain Chen had suggested, maybe we should teach everyone how to handle difficult situations. What humans considered basic training was graduate-level coursework for most galactic species. How are they doing? Asked Dr. Kenvar, joining Admiral Quexnor at the observation window. The xenobiologist had become the Academy's chief medical officer, a position that required him to treat injuries that would have been considered impossible to survive before human training methods. Better than expected, Admiral Quexnor replied, watching a young Kralian successfully complete a simple obstacle course that involved simulated radiation exposure, gravitational stress, and what humans called mild environmental hazards. The Kralian recruit just finished the Level 1 survival course. 6 months ago, her species couldn't operate in anything stronger than a light breeze. The humans are excellent teachers, Dr. Kenvar noted. They have a gift for making the impossible seem merely difficult. On the training ground below, a human instructor was demonstrating proper procedure for routine equipment failure in hostile environments. The demonstration involved deliberately damaging life support systems while operating in a simulated vacuum with radiation levels that would have been instantly lethal to most species. The trick, the instructor was saying to her mixed species class, is not to panic. Equipment failure is just another problem to solve. You've got your training, your tools, and your teammates. That's enough to handle pretty much anything. The students, representing 12 different species, nodded nervously as they prepared to attempt the same exercise. What would have been a death sentence 5 years ago was now considered standard training for galactic emergency response teams. Admiral Quexnor's communicator chimed with an incoming priority message. She glanced at the display and sighed. Another crisis alert. What is it this time? Dr. Kenvar asked. Stellar instability in the Corvash system. The star is showing signs of imminent collapse. 3 inhabited planets, 2 billion residents. Evacuation? That's what we would have done 5 years ago. Now, Admiral Quexnor activated her communicator. Get me Captain Chen. The response came back within minutes. Captain Chen appeared on the small holographic display, and Admiral Quexnor could see she was already aboard a ship, apparently en route to somewhere. Admiral, we heard about Corvash. Already heading that way. Should be there in about 18 hours. Captain, the star could go nova at any time. This isn't like the Void Swarma. We can't reprogram a star. Captain Chen grinned, that same predatory expression that had become famous throughout the galaxy. Who says we can't? We've been working on some new stellar engineering techniques. Nothing like a collapsing star to test them out. Stellar engineering? Sure, stars are just really big fusion reactors. And humans are very good with reactors. We've got some ideas for controlled collapse scenarios. Maybe even convert the whole thing into a stable neutron star with useful energy output. Admiral Quexnor rubbed her temples. Even after 5 years, human confidence in the face of cosmic-scale disasters still gave her headaches. Captain, we're talking about preventing a stellar collapse that could destroy 3 solar systems. I know. Isn't it exciting? This could revolutionize our understanding of stellar mechanics. Plus, if we pull it off, the Corvash system will have more stable energy output than they've ever had before. Win-win situation. The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Quexnor staring at the empty holographic display. Dr. Kenvar made a sound that might have been laughter. You know, he said, I've stopped being surprised when they succeed at these things. Have you? Well, mostly. I still can't believe they turned the Void Swarm into a garbage disposal service, or that they're using the Xerian neutron star as a power generator, or that they've set up a research station inside a black hole's event horizon. Admiral Quexnor nodded. Each of those achievements had been considered impossible by galactic science until humans had simply done them. The research station at the black hole was particularly disturbing. Humans had decided that the extreme gravitational environment was perfect for certain types of experiments. Director, her assistant called from across the observation deck, we're receiving reports from the Academy's off-world training facilities. What kind of reports? The students at the Volcanic World Training Center have successfully completed the Level 3 Heat Resistance course. The Zero-G Combat School reports that graduation rates have improved by 300% since they adopted human training methods. And the Deep Space Survival Institute says their students are now capable of operating in conditions that were previously classified as instantly lethal. Admiral Quexnor felt a mixture of pride and bewilderment. The Academy's success had exceeded everyone's expectations except the humans. Students who completed human-designed training courses could handle situations that had terrorized their species for millennia. More importantly, they weren't just surviving these conditions, they were learning to thrive in them. There's something else, her assistant continued. We're receiving applications from species that want to join the Confederation specifically so they can attend the Academy. Applications? 17 different species from outside our borders. They've heard about human training methods and want access to them. They're willing to accept full Confederation membership just for the opportunity to learn impossible survival techniques. Dr. Kenvar laughed, a sound that would have been impossible 5 years ago when he was terrified of everything humans did. They want to become Deathworlders by choice. The observation deck's main display activated, showing a live feed from the Corvash system. Human ships had arrived and were already deploying equipment around the unstable star. The energy readings were off the charts. Humans were using technologies that generated more power than most galactic civilizations consumed in a year. Admiral, came Captain Chen's voice over the communication system. We're beginning stellar stabilization procedures. Should have this wrapped up in about 6 hours. Captain, please be careful. If something goes wrong... Admiral, we're humans. When something goes wrong, that's when we do our best work. Admiral Quexnor watched as the human fleet began operations that would either save 3 worlds or destroy them. The strange thing was she wasn't afraid. 5 years of working with humans had taught her something that contradicted everything she thought she knew about the universe. When humans said something was possible, it usually was. 6 hours later, the Corvash star was burning with steady, controlled fusion that would keep it stable for another billion years. The humans had essentially performed surgery on a star, and they'd done it ahead of schedule. Another successful Tuesday, Captain Chen reported cheerfully. Oh, and we found some interesting gravitational anomalies while we were working. Might be worth investigating later. Could be useful for faster-than-light travel improvements. As the crisis alert ended and normal operations resumed, Admiral Quexnor reflected on how much the galaxy had changed. 5 years ago, a collapsing star would have meant evacuation, loss, and tragedy. Now it was just another engineering challenge for humans to solve. More importantly, Other species were learning to think the same way. The Academy graduates didn't just survive impossible conditions. They started seeing impossible conditions as interesting problems to solve. That evening, Admiral Quexnor attended the Academy's weekly graduation ceremony. This group included the first all-alien team to complete the Extreme Hostile Environment Operations Corsawa program that involved working in conditions humans described as moderately challenging, though. Young Fethrin, who gave the valedictorian speech, had words that would have been unthinkable 5 years earlier. "We learned that there is no such thing as an impossible situation," she said, her scales shimmering with confidence that her species had never shown before. "There are only situations that haven't been solved yet. Our human instructors taught us that the universe isn't trying to kill. It's just very creative about presenting challenges." Admiral Quexnor looked around the auditorium at representatives from dozens of species, all applauding words that would have sounded like madness before first contact with Earth. The galaxy had gained more than a new member species when humans joined the Confederation. They had gained a completely new way of thinking about what was possible. As the ceremony ended and the graduates dispersed to their new assignments throughout the galaxy, Admiral Quexnor's communicator chimed with another priority alert. "What now?" Dr. Kenvar asked.